All right, so I really wanted to make another video today that really, as you can see, it's kind of hard. I think we want to guard ourselves in everything we do, and even though I just expressed that we need to be who we are and be who we are, and people can take it or leave it, because we all have these amazing things that we can give to the world. It's still hard to do that because, you know, you want to people please and you want to make sure that people like you, but that's just not how it is. So anyway, I am just going to be myself. I'm going to share with you some information and be as transparent as I can get myself to be. If you have questions, I would be happy to answer. If you have comments, I'd be happy to answer. If you're going to hate on me, I'm not going to respond. Because I think that not just me, but people like me that are getting out there, that are trying to share their stories and trying to connect with people and trying to lift up and support others and encourage others are doing great in this world. So I just did a video that talked about, I think five or six of the texts that are listed in the resource page for this website. And I really wanted to touch on confidence, and specifically, I think our lack of confidence comes from a lot of different angles, and it's really hard to narrow down. I think it takes a lot of self-reflection, a good deal, a fair amount of personal development, exposure, so different texts, different audios, different podcasts, to narrow down why we feel self-conscious, and what's going on inside of our heads. So I honestly don't remember where I read this, which totally lends to my credibility, right? But I know I've seen a number of times that we operate 80% of our brain function. We operate at a subconscious level. So, you know, breathing, blinking your eyes, whatever. The majority of our day-to-day function is done on a subconscious level. 80%, that is insane, right? So we're using only 20% of our brain function for actual conscious thoughts. So when that comes to habits and our confidence, this is all, super linked, right? So, you know, how we act day to day, our habits, those are going to be sunk in, and they're going to be sunk in at a subconscious level. For the most part, at least that's what I think, and that's what I believe. I have learned, probably you know this too, but it takes 21 days to make or break a habit. And I think, sorry, I'm trying to think of how I want to share this. I am not a professional speaker. I'm just trying to be real with people and help encourage people. I think that it's hard to make or break a habit. I say especially break a habit, if you don't understand why you have some of these habits, where they come from. So what I want to kind of go back to is the text I was talking about is Tony Robbins. I watched the I Am Not Your Guru documentary that's on Netflix, and I had lost my father, like my father, not my dad, my father, my biological parent, February 2016. He was an alcoholic for the vast majority of his life. I think he started drinking when he was like 15. And he snuck it in however he could, and it just increased all through his life. So yeah, definitely drink for that long and at such copious levels that he did. It did not make for happy situations. So yes, a very, very strong alcoholic. Alcoholism ran in the family. I knew by the age of like 7 or 8 that was not going to be me. And this is probably going to sound silly or crazy. How does a 7 or 8-year-old think that that's not going to be you? Because you're still learning black from white. And does gray exist? But I remembered my dad used to take me 2-3 times a week to the bowling alley in this town that we lived in. And he would bowl, and when it got done, 10, 11 o'clock at night, or what, it was something like that, he would go into the bar and drink until it closed. And those of you who know, they usually close at 2 o'clock in the morning. So The bowling alley itself would close down 11 or midnight, which means there's no more video games to play, which means I'm sitting outside of a bar waiting for him to finally come around. And I remember seeing him and driving home with him intoxicated. I couldn't even tell you how many times. But I remember him telling me to wait in the car one night as he helped somebody get outside. I don't remember if they went to a car or not. All I remember visually is seeing this person stammer and like stumble all out the door, holding on to them, trying to support themselves and throwing up everywhere, looking at that and going, oh my gosh, that is not going to be me. You are so like, who wants to live like that? Like I understand drinking occasionally and maybe having a little too much occasionally, but this was a regular, consistent thing. So anyway, when my father passed away in February of 2016, I knew it was coming. He lived the same life that his father and his uncle did. Lots of alcohol, lots of smoking, lots of eating poorly. So your lifespan is going to be half what it should be, right? Maybe 2/3 of what it could be if you're lucky. Yeah. So what he basically passed away with was liver failure and alcohol-induced hepatitis, which basically means his body was attacking himself. And it's just like, what an awful way to go. Okay, so sorry, my son popped up real quick. But anyway, so what I'm trying to say is he had a very self-destructive life. And even though I had reconciled with the fact that I knew he was going to have this shortened life, that we weren't going to have a relationship really much to speak of, I had reconciled that probably at 26. It doesn't mean that it doesn't still suck when they pass away. So I went out a year before he passed away when things really started going downhill. Tried to say my piece, tried to hang around and be around. The focus still, it wasn't on making amends. It wasn't on being well with your family. And a part of me was still really pissed about that. I was like, seriously, you're practically dying. Like they did not know whether you would make it 2 weeks when I first was getting things to come out here. Like, seriously? And you still would rather watch TV than talk to me? You haven't talked to me in years. And you still would rather, so, okay, that's what it is. But at the time, yeah, I was really pissed. Like, seriously, I look at it, I'm a parent now, so obviously, so I look at that and go, what is wrong with you? Why don't you want to know about your kids and what they're doing? So, I mean, every so often, I would send him letters, pictures, every so often. When I say every so often, I mean like once, twice a year. And that's just the way it was, because I realized at 26 that being around him and struggling to maintain a relationship with him was depressing. It put me in a depressive state. I kept coming back to, why doesn't he care? What is it about me that's wrong? Oh, bad juju. Bad juju. It doesn't matter that I knew he was an alcoholic. I still kept thinking, what is it about me? Why? So I'm really rambling. Like I said, I am no professional. I'm just trying to share with you some thoughts. So I knew from the age of 9 that I was going to have to be the one who put out the effort if I wanted a relationship with him. The first time he missed a birthday was at 9. And that's fine. I mean, that's maybe selfish when you're a kid to think, man, you missed my birthday. What sucked is that it was like a week or two past my birthday, and he looked at my stepbrother and said, oh, buddy, we're gonna have to start thinking about your birthday. It's coming up next month. And I was like, what the hell? But I just knew that he wasn't gonna engage with me like he did the boys in the family. And even then, it wasn't a whole lot. And then when I went to live with my mom, it was even, sorry, I'm looking at the monitor for my daughter. Even like when I went to go live with my mom, it was even bigger from there. I was a couple hours away, and it just, like, communication, I had to push with every bit that I was for any kind of communication with him. And it sucks, So it went from, being every weekend to being once a month to being every 3 months. And by the time I was in high school, It was like once every 6 or so months, maybe. I hardly ever talked to him. I stopped going back for summer vacation when I was a sophomore. What was the point? I didn't hang out with him. I never talked with him. We never did anything. All he did was work and drink. And when he drank until he was drunk. So if he wanted to have any kind of coherent conversation, it had to be after he got home. So sometime between 5 and 6 and before 7 o'clock, because by then he had to use the counter to hold himself up. So anyway, needless to say, trying to have any kind of relationship with someone like that who is so self-destructive. Wow, I need more coffee. Sorry. Self-destructive and is all about, I don't know if you can hear, the sprinklers are going off in the backyard. Sorry. Yeah, it's so hard to have a relationship with somebody who's so self-destructive like that. I mean, how can you do that? It's going to be so negative and exhausting all the time. So totally, like, I mean, like this, click the little heart, something, you know, let me know if like any of you guys relate with this, because I think that, oh my gosh, it's so hard. I mean, yeah, it's so hard to have a relationship with someone who is so self-destructive. So, I mean, I moved back to Washington basically for one last, let's see if we can kindle a relationship with my father, when I was 18 or 19. And I hoped. My grandfather passed away because, like I said, they lived a very similar life. So he passed away at the age of 62. And I tried to talk with my dad. Normally, having any kind of, if you wanted to have any kind of conversation with somebody who is an alcoholic and you want to try and point out that what they're doing is bad for them, I don't know if you guys have had any other more successful conversations, but the one that I had with my father, this was one of the few times he actually listened. Normally he jumped up and he got mad and he told me, like, who are you? You're just a kid. Like, you know what you're talking about. Why are you trying to tell me about this, etc. It turned into a huge blowout. And I was cowering and just begging him to please just stop, accept my apology. I'll never say anything again. This is one of the few times that he was like, nope, I know. I totally know. And I could see, it was one of the few times I could see that he was scared and he got it. What is so awful is that I guess he wasn't scared enough, or I don't know. I mean, it's hard. Alcoholism is a disease, right? So by the time I was 26, I remember having a conversation with a close friend who said, hey, and she actually had probably a good 10, 15 years on me. And she said to me, you need to think about your heart and guard your heart and your mind, because if every time you're exposed to this individual, they are negative and sad, and they just bring you down and they stress you and depress you, should you be continuing that in your life? Is it good for you? Is it healthy for you in any way? And I was, that really like, whoa, that really hit me. You know what I mean? Just, wow, is this good for me? Is it healthy for me? I mean, not even that. I had a 2-year-old at the time. So is it healthy for my kid to be around that or see me exposing myself like that? Whoa. I mean, you know, that really puts it in perspective. So at 26, I distinctly remember thinking, I'm done. I can't. I've tried. I've actively tried for 13 years to have a relationship. I've called, I've written, I've tried to visit, I've done everything I can, and there's nothing more I can do. I have to let this go. And if it works, it works. If he reaches out to me, great. I will tell you that between the time of being, 26, that was 2009, if I'm mathing correctly. Between 2009 and 2011, I never heard from him. I heard from him when I moved from Washington, and that was because I happened to see him at my grandmother's house when I was saying goodbye before I moved. And I remember going up to him and thinking, I need to have a conversation with him. I need to tell him what I've been up to, because I dropped out of high school and he told me I wasn't going to amount to anything. And I went into the military and I was successful. And I went to community college and I was successful. I joined Senate and I became the vice president for public relations. And I hate talking in front of people. I hate doing like group projects and presentations like that. I hate it so much. So this really is stepping out of my comfort zone. But I think helping people and empowering others is so much more important than my comfort zone. So, what was I going to say? So I basically walked up to him and I heard him go on and on and on about his work and his life and how things are going, etc. And meanwhile, he had never asked me how I was beyond the, oh, hey, how are you? You know, when I got a hug. So I was like, I left the Navy, you know, finished my enlistment, was awarded and commended, and I have plaques to show that. I went back to, I continued going back to school and was the vice president for public relations, and I was the student body president, and I had, this dean and that VP and that VP and the president and these board members all give me letters of recommendation, and now I'm going on to a 4-year college, and I'm moving, and I've been successful. So for him, he was like, that was the first time I ever saw pride in his eyes. I was floored. And I saw love, and he actually like hugged me and said, wow, I'm really proud of you, sweetie. And I thought, oh man, now that I'm moving, maybe. No. Because 2 years later, I was facing the end of my time at my 4-year college. I had been through a lot. I had sued the school. Continued with a whole lot of marital problems and a kid and let alone going back to school when you have a kid. My last semester was just insane. My last semester was insane at the school I was at because I was fighting with the school about my tuition. I had so many issues with my husband at the time. He was a lot like my father. This comes back to understanding why you have self-confidence issues, because I tried to fix it by finding another person similar and fixing him. No, that's not the way to do it. But yeah, just that. And then, I had a 5-year-old, and it's just, that was a lot. So yeah, it was a lot. And I sent him this letter that was like, here, I graduated with honors. Here, I had the dean's list the whole time I was there. And here's this, that, and the other thing. And pictures of your new grandchild and your other grandchild. And was like, here, you just need to know because you're a parent and you should know what your kids are doing and how your kids are living. Never heard anything. It took about 6 months, and then I got a random card that said, Merry Christmas, thanks for the pics. There was a $50 gift card in it. That's not what I wanted. I didn't expect anything, but what would have been better was a phone call, right? Nope, didn't get it. I let it go. Then I found out in 2016 that he had maybe 2 weeks left to live, and went out to visit, and 2016 he passed away. What's sad is the last night I talked to him, which was the day before he passed, he couldn't speak anymore, but he could kind of make sounds, and that was when I heard the regret in his voice. It was heartbreaking because there's nothing he can do at that point, And I'd forgiven him, he's passing away. What is he going to do? But, oh God. And even now, it's horrible hearing regret that late. Anyway, so daddy issues, man, they kill you. They kill you mentally.